Hey, what is going on? Welcome back to the vlog. We're here at the Best Bet Jacksonville compound, and we are here to play on their 2-2 live stream today. It's a deep stack game, $500 max buy-in. I'm probably more nervous than I should be. I hear a lot about how there's a lot of added pressure of playing on a live stream because then everybody can see what you're doing, they can critique your every move, but then I realize that's what everybody does with my vlog anyway. So I want to go in, mix it up, win some money. If you enjoy, like and subscribe. Let's get to it. I want to start by thanking the commentary team of Ryan, aka Country, and Kirk for doing a great job of promoting my channel throughout the stream. I picked up about 24 new subscribers during the game, so gentlemen, it's appreciated.
What is up? How we doing? Hopefully you guys are having a good Saturday afternoon. We're getting ready for a 2-2 no limit hold'em deep stack game. Has some regulars here, have some new faces on the table as well. We also have a let's see, in the 9 seat, I'll find out his actual name in a minute, but he does have a poker vlog on YouTube, 7 Card Flush Poker. That's his YouTube channel. Has over 1,000 subscribers on his vlog. Andy is his name. He's the one that does that channel. Again, 7 Card Flush Poker is the YouTube channel for him.
In the first hand of the night, which happens to be the second hand of the stream, there are 2 limps before Ryan in the cutoff bumps it up to $30. I'm on the button and I look down at a suited ace, so I'll call and play in position. Everybody else folds, we're heads up. The flop is 6-8-10 all clubs, so right color but wrong suit. The action will check through. The turn is a 10 of hearts and it pairs the board. Ryan checks it over to me for a second time, and since he's shown no interest in this pot, I'll go ahead and represent the 10, so I bet, and I size up a little bit. I make it $65. Ryan folds and we scoop this first one. That's a great way to settle the nerves. In the next hand, there's a button straddle. It folds to the big blind who bumps it up to $30. I'm in under the gun and I look down at ace-king offsuit. I think this is a great spot to 3-bet, and so I do, and I size up to $110. It folds all the way back around to the big blind and he calls, so we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is 6-6-4 with 2 diamonds. My opponent checks to me and I put out a c-bet for $75. He pretty quickly makes the call, so we're off to the turn. The turn is a 10 of clubs. Once again, the big blind checks, and since my backdoor diamonds are now out, I decide to slow down and check behind. The river is a 9 of diamonds, so it brings in a flush. The big blind then leads on this card for $150. So the action's on me, and it's $150 to win like $500, so I'm getting an incredible price. However, calling off another $150 with ace high is kind of hard to do. He has the ace of diamonds in his hand, so he knows I wasn't drawing to the nut flush.
Putting Andy in a pretty tough spot to call off with just ace high.
Just a little too early to make that hero call. In the next hand, it folds to me. I look down at ace-king of spades. I open the action to $11. I made it kind of a smaller size because I'm okay with facing a little bit of aggression.
Ooh, ace-king suited. Here we go for Andy.
That's a strong hand to go ahead and...
Yo, 11.
Yep, bumps it up to 11 though.
And I get some aggression when Aaron on the button bumps it up to $31. Then Miami in the big blind flats. It folds back to me and I'm trying to figure out what to do here. I'd definitely like to re-raise, but I was thinking I only had about 220 behind, and if I made it like 110, I'm leaving myself a really awkward size on the flop. So instead, I end up jamming. However, I jammed for 286. It's actually a lot more than I thought I had. It's back on Aaron, and he hates this raise, but it's kind of done to target hands like pocket pairs to make them commit a chunk if they want to play. Eventually, Aaron makes the fold. It's back on Miami, and I don't think he's going to play suited connectors for $300, so he folds as well. Kind of a weird play, but I'm happy to take down $60 without having to see a flop.
Andy with good enough to take the pot down, we'll take it.
Yeah.
There is a button straddle, it folds to me, I'm in +1, and I look down once again at ace-king offsuit. I bump it up to $16. Zach on the button is the only caller, so we're off to a flop out of position heads up. The flop is king 9-6 with 2 spades. I check to allow Zach to take a shot at the pot, and he does. He bets $25. With 2 spades out there, I decide to raise it up to properly charge draws and protect my hand, so I bump it up to $75.
Oh, hey, look, Ace King again. Wait.
Ace King again for Andy, and also Zach flop a pair of 9s.
Wow, and he's going to get away from it.
He is going to get away from it. Yeah, good fold.
Zach takes notice of the check raise, and he decides to lay it down. Maybe a bit too aggressive, but I'm happy to take this pot. About an hour in and we take a look at the stats, I'm down about 115 bucks. We also see my VPIP is at 21%. I can't say I'm surprised, but I definitely think I'm gonna have to get more involved or else no one's gonna give me any action. There's a button straddle and the small blind opens things up for $45. It folds around to me in the cutoff and I have pocket 8, so I make the call and I'm the only caller, so we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is ace high and my opponent continues for $25. I'm not convinced that he has this board yet, so I call, we're off to a turn. The turn is another ace, so it makes it much less likely that he's actually holding one. My opponent once again bets $25. With the action on me, and thinking I probably have the best hand, I bump it up to $70. I'm trying to kind of make it look like a raise for value, plus this guy seems to be playing every hand. Not surprisingly, he folds, and I win.
Again, guys, Andy does have a poker vlog. I'll include his channel, too, in the YouTube archive for you guys to check it out and everything. But it is 7-card flush poker. That's his YouTube channel. Has a little over 1,000 subscribers on his channel. You can definitely check out some of his content.
In the next hand, it folds all the way around to Pete on the button, who bumps it up to $10. It folds to me in the big blind. I look down at King Jack of Diamonds. My opponent on the button could literally be raising with any 2 cards, so I re-raise to $30. Pete on the button calls, so we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is King 8-9 Rainbow. With top pair and some backdoor draws, I'm looking to start building the pot now, so I bet $45. Pete on the button has some backdoor straight draws, and so he makes the call, we're off to the turn. The turn is a jack, so I've made 2 pair, but it's kind of a scary card bringing in some of those straight draws. However, I'm not going to slow down. I fire for $150 this time. Pete goes into the tank for a little bit. He's now got an open-ended straight draw, so I think he's picked up some more equity here. The longer he thinks about this, the more I want him to call. It sets me up for a perfect river jam. However, Pete thinks better of it, and he folds.
So Andy's going to go ahead and take that one down after turning 2 pair.
There's another button straddle. We see the blinds complete before it folds to me in the cutoff, and I look down at Queen Jack of Clubs. I bump it up to $16. It folds back to the small blind who calls, and then when the action's on the big blind, he raises to $85. I decide to call this one off since I'm in position. The small blind folds, so we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is 3-4-5, and Zach immediately bets out for $100. At the time, I thought I couldn't whiff any harder than this, so I ended up folding. And as you can tell from my face, I'm not pleased with how that hand went down. And thinking about it more now, usually when somebody acts that immediately and that aggressively, it's actually a sign of weakness, so I probably should have slowed down and thought about how that hand played out. 2 hours in and we check in on the stats again. I'm only down about $70 now, and my VPIP has increased slightly to 26%. Frankly, I'm just happy to not be the tightest guy at the table. There was an interesting spot. There was a button straddle. I was in the big blind. I looked down at 10 Jack offsuit. When the action got to me, the card stuck to my finger and I accidentally exposed the 10. And so, not loving that 50% of my hand was available to the table, I ended up folding. When the flop was dealt, it was 8-9 queen. Figures. In the next hand, we see a raise from under the gun to $10. When the action gets on Miami, he 3-bets to $25. Then we see a call from Pete, and the action's on me on the button. I look down at Ace-Jack offsuit. I have position, but I don't know if I want to navigate this flop 4 to 6 ways with Ace-Jack, so I put in a 4-bet to $95. It folds back around to Miami, who makes a pretty loose call here. The hijack gets out of the way, so we're heads up. The flop is 8-3-4 with 2 clubs. My opponent checks, and this board does not connect with my range here at all as the 4-better, and I think the right play is a check and flow, but I want to stay aggressive and try to represent Queens Plus, so I put out a C-bet and it's for $165. The action back on Miami, and I think he's putting together that my line doesn't make any sense. I think if he really puts me on Queens Plus, he probably would have folded by now. Instead, he jams all in. Obviously, I'm in a world of hurt here. There's no way I can be ahead, but can I be live? Could my cards be live to a straight or a flush draw? Could my overs be good here?
6 spot just to call with ace high here.
Yeah, it is.
Miami just putting him to the test.
But this is what Miami does. Again, we talked about Miami being the aggressive player. Definitely not really out of line with what he likes to do. You definitely feel weird about this spot for sure.
I mean, we've committed over 30% of our chips in here already with this 4-bet.
Yep. And Andy is going to go ahead and make the call.
Okay.
All right. This is going to be content for the vlog.
And he has him drawing dead with that turn.
Wow, trip aces. Runner for trips.
Holy run out.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't need it, but
Nope.
definitely good entrance to have.
Definitely secures it.
Nice call from Andy there, and there's some for the vlog.
Uh-huh.
At the time, it was pretty embarrassing. I was pretty much ready to punt off and go home, and instead I scooped like a $900 pot. I discussed it with fellow vlogger Huggy Poker, and we agreed that my c-bet was way too big, and my opponent shoved because he knew I had air. Part of me also thinks that the read on my opponent's cards was wrong. I think he actually had either pocket 7s or pocket 10s. There's an under the gun straddle. It folds to Pete and +2, who bumps it up to $20. I'm in the cutoff with pocket 5s, and I elect to call with position. Aaron in the small blind and Miami in the straddle both complete, so we're off to a flop multi-way. The flop is deuce 4-7, so not a terrible flop for 5s. It checks to +2, who continues for $30, and I don't think this flop really hits his range, whereas I can have all the sets and all the straight draws, so I end up making the call. The small blind folds, but then Miami in the straddle bumps it up to $130. Pete gets out of the way and it's back on me, and looking back, I think this is a clear fold. He's representing a very strong hand, and all I really have is a bluff catcher. However, in the moment, I decided to go ahead and call and peel one off. The turn is a 10 of hearts, so it's not a good card at all, and my opponent jams, which I kind of expected.
Yeah,
There's an all you can eat, baby.
There's all in it. There's a little bit, you can't really see it, but there was a little bit of a sly smile there from Andy.
Not that I think this turn has necessarily changed anything, but I don't think I can get lucky twice against this guy, so I end up folding. He does show me a 7, so turns out I was behind. In the next hand, we see it fold to Zach and +2, who bumps it up to $20. It folds to the small blind, who calls. I'm in the big blind, and I look down at ace-jack offsuit. With the action on me, I decide to call and see a flop. I check dark as we go to a flop, which is ace high. Zach bets out for $35, and with the board being rainbow, I don't have to worry about flush draw, so I just flat here. We're going to a turn heads up. The turn is a 7, and it pairs the board. Once again, I check, and he bets $55 this time. I'm just going to call and evaluate the river. The river is an 8 of hearts. It's not a great card as it completes jack 10. Once again, I check it over to my opponent, and he decides to check back. I flip my hand over thinking I'm probably good here, but it turns out we both have ace-jack, so we chop. In the next hand, it folds around to +2, who makes the call. It's on me in the cutoff, and I look down at ace-3 of clubs, and I bump it up to $17. Action on the button, and he wakes up with a monster here, and he 3-bets to $45. Then we see a call from the under the gun straddler, and honestly, had he folded, I think I would have folded too, but I feel like $28 more to win about 100 gives me the right odds to call with a suited ace, so I do. We're off to a flop.
And he actually gets some action.
He does. Oh no, ace magnet.
Ace magnet.
Andy.
The flop is ace-5-8 with 2 hearts. Miami checks it to me, and I decide to go ahead and check to the pre-flop raiser, and he fires for $50. Miami gets out of the way, and with top pair and a very weak kicker, I think a raise is just overplaying my hand, so I call it off. We're off to the turn. The turn is a 9 of hearts. It brings in a flush draw. I check it over to my opponent, and he slows down this time and checks. The river is a jack of clubs, so I either have the best hand or I'm way behind. If I do have the best hand, I don't want to risk this checking through, so I fire for $75.
You just soul read them as kings, like Bread 6 played 2 hands all night.
Yeah, basically.
My opponent calls pretty quickly. I roll it over expecting not to win here, but he mucks and I end up taking it.
Extracting value. Very nice, very nice.
There we go. like we said, content for the vlog.
It's bomb pot time. We go straight to a flop, and the flop is King 9-5 Rainbow. We see Will in the small blind lead for $30. I peek down at pocket tens, and I can't go anywhere. At least I think I can't. So I make the call. We also see a call from +2, so now I have to think that one of these guys has a king. The turn is a 4 of hearts, and the action will actually check through, so maybe I do have the best hand here. The river is a 7 of spades. Once again, Will in the small blind bets $65. I'm probably behind, but I think it may be a little bit too tight to fold second pair here in a bomb pot, so I end up calling.
Yep.
Wow, and actually Andy just overcalls here in this bomb pot.
Interesting.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, interesting from Andy there.
There's just gonna call too.
+2 also makes the call, and he flips over 2 pair. The small blind had King 10, and it turns out I've been behind for a while. I folded for a while before there was a button straddle. I'm in the hijack, and I look down at 9-10 of clubs. We see the small blind complete before it folds to me, and being in late position, I bump it up to $20. It folds back to Miami and the small blind who calls, and little do we know, but our flush outs are no good here, but we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is Queen 9 deuce with 2 hearts, so a flop middle pair. Miami checks it over to me, and with middle pair and a flush draw out there, I put in a bet and I make it $40. In hindsight, probably way too big of a bet as it's almost a pot size bet. Not surprisingly, he folds, but hey, at least I get to scoop one. I folded for a long time after that until we got to the second to last hand of the night. I'm straddling from the button when we see the small blind and the big blind complete. It folds around to me and I peek down at pocket queens. This is perfect. So I put in a raise and I make it $19. Don't ask me why I chose that size, I just did. Aaron in the big blind makes the call, so we're off to the flop heads up. He checks it dark to me and we see an ace high flop, so with the ace out there I just check behind. The turn is a 6 of diamonds and Aaron leads out for $20, and being that we know the stream is coming to an end, I think he could make this same play with small pocket pairs and flush draws, so I call looking to see a river. The river is a 5 of hearts, and Aaron once again bets $20. That's a price way too good to fold to, so I call, he flips over an ace and he wins. We played one more hand, a bomb pot that went nowhere, and after 5 hours of play, we wrap it up for the night. This was a really neat experience, and I want to thank the entire staff and the poker room manager at Best Bet Jacksonville for having me on the live stream.
I know something that will make the 2-hour trip back home a little bit better. A stop at Buc-ee's. If you've never been to Buc-ee's before or don't have a Buc-ee's in your area, think of it as if Walmart and Wawa had a baby and then pumped that baby full of human growth hormones. That's what Buc-ee's is. They've got retail shopping, they've got gag gifts, they have an awesome barbecue selection. Plus, since Zaxby's doesn't sell their tater chips in the store anymore, it's about the only place I can get them. Pretty interesting night for the live stream. It started off really hot. I think I had ace king 3 times in the first 45 minutes. Don't know if I played any of them very well. Then there was the attempted punt with ace jack where I called the kicking unit out on the field but somehow got through that one. And then there was the hand with the pocket fives where I just never knew where I was at in that hand, and I was just never really comfortable throughout that whole hand. Then I just kind of went card dead for like the next 2 or 3 hours, and it was just kind of ironic. The second to last hand, I finally get a good strong pocket pair, and of course I get out flop. But it was an interesting experience. There's an added element of when you're making a decision, knowing that people can see your opponent's cards and worried about getting bluffed off hands or stuff like that. And I don't know, just kind of factors into the way you make your decisions. But overall, it was a neat experience into tonight's game for 700, out for 660. If you enjoy and you want to see me play more of these live streams, comment down below. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more poker content. And you can follow me on Instagram at 7cardflushpoker.